when Leah Remini first filed her lawsuit in August, we ended up with Judge Randolph Hammock. And he turned out to be very interesting. And I saw him in action in January. I liked what I saw. He was really tough on both sides, but he really cared about the case. He worked so hard on his Scientology had tried to gut the lawsuit with a series of motions to strike and anti-slap motions. And he came out with a tentative ruling about that in January. And he told us in court, I have never worked harder on a motion in my entire career. That's how hard this judge was working, researching, looking at the arguments by Scientology, looking at the arguments by Leah's people. Now, in that tentative ruling, he was going to dismiss a lot of Leah's defamation claims. Some were they're too old, but a lot of them he just said they were just opinion. And and he said it was unfortunate that Scientology acted this way, but Scientology was calling her a bigot and a Nazi and all these things. And he says, "I'm sorry, you can't sue over that."
Yep.
So, but in general, he had kept in most of her, 8 of her 9 claims, courses of action, and in general, I think it was a very favorable ruling for her.
Right.
So very unusual situation, very unusual, and I like this guy.
I think his rulings have been. I almost want to use a word like wise. Like really paying attention. Like, okay, look, I just can't, sorry. I know it's bad, but it's got to go, right? It's not part of the lawsuit, Leah's team, right? Sorry. But here's the facts. This is kind of bullshit for this church to be doing this, right? Like he says this out loud basically, and that's an approach I can appreciate because it's not just procedural. It's not just, well, the contract says what the contract says, sorry. He's putting a little bit more thought into this, and this is the kind of judge that whether you agree with every decision or not, at least so far what I've seen makes me feel like this is somebody who's really paying attention. That's what we want. That's really what we want, is somebody who's paying attention, not just walking through the steps.
And I was in the courtroom when he talked about malice, for example. It's like, okay, Leah might be able to prove that they've said all these untrue things about her, but she's a public person. And she's also going to have to prove that there's malice involved, that not only did they know what they were saying about her was untrue, but they knew they were trying to harm her. There was malice involved. And he just looks at the room and he just says, they're putting this stuff out day and night for months. It's just common sense. Of course there's malice. And I couldn't believe it, Chris. It's like common sense in a courtroom about a Scientology case?
Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I think.
Imagine if one of these judges used common sense with the damn arbitration bullshit.
Exactly. Exactly. They're a minor. This is a social situation with pressure. I mean, there are so many circumstances where the judges could use some common sense.